Well, I got my microphone, something was snagged to it. It was strange. I brought two really talented young women along with me. Two of the greatest people I've ever met in my life, Anna Eli and Hannah Clasen.
All right. So I'd like to start out today with a story from my second grade self. I remember pretty distinctly, I was about 8 years old, and my teacher had told my classmates and I to start practicing our spelling words. You know, and so we got into pairs, and we were taking turns reading the words to each other and then spelling the words out loud. And that particular day, I had been paired with a girl named Suji. And Suji was an acquaintance of mine, you know, and so we had been paired up to do spelling, and we were doing sports-themed words, and so there we were, and my word that Suji gave me was the word pitch. Now, when you say the word pitch, it's kind of difficult to tell it apart from other words that are decidedly not pitch, and this is exactly what happened, you know. So Suji told me to say this word, pitch, and I say, no, you didn't say pitch, you said a word that is decidedly not pitch. And what Suji decided to do was yell to the entire class that I had said this particular word that was inappropriate for a second grader, and I was mortified. You know, I was a very anxious child, and so I, you know, immediately started to cry, and I hid under my desk, and it was just a really sorry experience, honestly, and I still to this day have not been able to forgive Suji. Actually, I'm holding this pretty strong in my heart right now.
Hannah, you're joking. This is in second grade, and you still haven't forgiven her?
Not even sort of. Nope.
Okay. I mean, I guess this does show that forgiveness isn't something that comes naturally. From the time that we're little kids, like second graders, through the junior high years where everybody's the victim, am I right? But you see, forgiveness is not something that we do naturally. And I guess that as we get older, it only becomes more important. Because this friend of yours in second grade made a mistake. It's a thing that happens. People make mistakes. And oftentimes, we have to take the brunt of it.
You're right. And I guess that's the reason that I've never sort of gone about forgiving her, is just because I don't really know how to go about it. You know, the idea of forgiveness is something that's so abstract that I feel like if I were to have a more concrete set of steps, I would be able to go about it in a much more productive way.
Okay, so this might be a little far-fetched, but when I was a kid, I have these very clear memories of the time when my grandparents were building a new house. And it was like a big family event. Like, we're all going to see how much progress they made on the house. You know, so we'd go to this land, and what I remember was that it was a long process, and like, I wouldn't know how to build a house, so thank goodness for people who do. And it shows that it really requires a skill set too. And I think that there's some metaphor here to what forgiveness is. Because forgiveness is a process. It's not something that comes easily, and it's not something that you can do without the skills. And it takes a long time. But I think it's just, when you learn how to forgive someone, you end up with the benefit, like I have, somewhere you can live, be safe and comfortable.
Okay, so with that, are you saying that forgiveness isn't something that we just start doing and then we forgive and then it's done, but rather something that we sort of exist in?
Like, yeah, almost like a state of being instead of just act.
Okay, so,
deconstruct this house analogy a little bit to learn more about what forgiveness looks like. So I think the first step is to build a house, you have to have a solid foundation, because if you don't, then like the house sinks and bad things happen and things fall apart, and it's quite a mess sometimes. And so in this kind of analogy, what the foundation of the house represents is our understanding of what forgiveness is, which often sometimes is at least a little bit shaky. I think sometimes we think that forgiveness makes us weak. And I think sometimes we think that forgiving means letting somebody else off the hook. But in reality, I think we can see that forgiveness is hard, and it's a choice that we have to make if we decide to do so. And therefore, that makes us not weak, because we're choosing to do something that goes against what we fear and desire. And second, we find that forgiveness isn't really about the other person at all. That waiting for an apology is actually just holding on to something that holds us back from being And so refusing to forgive is not about what the other person has done to us, but rather us choosing to hold on to that. And so the next step of a house is building the frame. And so this is kind of like they put wood stuff up, and do drywall, make like a house. And one of the things that this reminds me of is if the frame of the house isn't strong, then it can't hold any weight. And if our understanding of ourselves and where we're coming from isn't very strong, then we can't take the weight of pressure or new situations or maybe more hurt that come in our lives. And so we find that replacing this, instead of holding on to these things that we don't want to let go of, choosing to let go and let forgiveness enter is like building a strong frame.
Yeah, and okay, so that's all very well and good, but I think that to better explain this concept, you have a rap, don't you?
Hannah, you're not going to make me do the rap.
I am actually going to make you do the rap. Yeah, I have the beat. Okay, all right. You got the beat. We're good. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
What do you think that pain's going to make things that heart? You're open arms overboard, that don't need to be fought. Try to let us lay our weapons on the ground. You fill our bridges up, but just to burn them down, say we think it's tame, go to apologies, and then it'll stop. The truth be told, it doesn't matter if you're sorry or not. Yeah. That was really embarrassing, and it comes from the song Losing by 10th Avenue. And I think it gives us just a little bit of an idea of how, when we choose to hold on, we actually miss out on some of the beautiful things that life has to offer. And so the final step of forgiveness, right, if you want to put it in steps, is when you're building a house, then you got to put on the roof. And the problem is that if you don't have a roof, it rains, right? And so then it's like you're standing in this house and it's cold, wet, rainy, and then if it happens for too long, it gets kind of moldy and gross, and nobody really wants to live there. And so the idea of putting a roof on the house is so that it can be a warm and safe environment. And I think that that's what this final step of choosing to forgive the person for whatever has happened can be really essential, because it allows the house to become something that is actually livable. And I think Kenny, you have a little more to say to that. Yeah. So this is a quote by the Archbishop Desmond Tutu that actually sort of leads into the next point. He says, if you can find it in yourself to forgive, you are no longer chained to the perpetrator. And the context of this quote was actually the era of apartheid in South Africa. And this was a very dark time in the country's history. But I think that lessons that we can learn from it are applicable to our everyday lives as well. So these next couple of things aren't terribly necessary for building the house itself. You know, if you were to ask a second grader, to draw a picture of a house, you would sort of see this basic frame, roof, foundation sort of idea. But if we want to move into making the house actually livable and able to be brought into, we need to add a door. And the idea of the door comes from letting people either into or out of your life. So as Haley's talking about the idea of forgiving a person and moving through the levels of this forgiveness and moving past our misconception of what forgiveness means, you have to decide whether we let somebody back into our life. It's sort of like a selectively permeable memory. Yeah, awesome. And the difficult thing about this, though, is the fact that there is no right or wrong answer. There's never a formula that you have to go about to get to, oh, I definitely know that I should let this person back into my life, or that I definitely shouldn't. It's going to be different in every single situation you'll encounter. And so, moving on from there, we go into the idea of windows. They let light into dark places that might not have had it originally. And this is the idea of forgiveness. This is caring about the person as a person. Once you've forgiven the person, and once you've decided whether or not to let them back into your life, this step is still applicable. You can care about anybody as a person. You have to recognize the things that are good about them, and the unique strengths and qualities that they have in their own lives, as opposed to, this person made a mistake, and I can't forgive them for that. And so because of that, I wish ill will upon them, and I hate them, and I just want them to go away. Once we move through this idea of forgiveness, and we move through the idea of letting them back into our lives or not, we can shine light on those parts of ourselves that are keeping this hard place in our heart.
and we're still very good friends today, but like any near and dear friend, we have had our really rough patches. And this was a couple of years ago. And the problems in our relationship started because we had a very weak foundation. Some of the main aspects of our foundation for our friendship were competition and jealousy and who's better friends with this person. And that led us to not only be hitting against each other constantly, but also to be searching for approval with each other. That if she thought I was doing something well, then it must mean I was doing it well because she could probably do it better anyway. So this kind of weak foundation led to a lot of really deep hurt in both of our lives because I treated her the same way she treated me. And so I'm not exactly sure how to explain how our forgiveness story happened, but all I know is that we took some time away and began our own paths to forgiveness. And I had to learn to recognize the things that I was doing that were hurtful to her, and she did the same for what was hurting me. And as we began to rebuild this frame of not only ourselves, but our relationship as well, we began to see some really interesting chances for new conversations to start, for new ways that we can interact with each other's lives. And so one of the situations that I think of is when this friend was able to have a little more vision than I was. We set up a couple of phone calls where we would talk, and we got to the really hard questions. She would ask me things like, how do I even know that you care about me? And I didn't have an answer. And I think that in going to those hard places, it was a little bit like opening up the windows. And that we were able to get to those dark places and shed light into them, and we can be even better friends too. But the thing is that not every story has a happy ending. Like, that's like a perfect textbook, yay, forgiveness works. But we all know that that's not always how it happens in the real world. So, yeah.
Would it be okay if I share a story?
Yeah.
So I have a story that's similar, but doesn't have the exact same sort of happy ending, but it's in a positive direction. So this story of forgiveness started when I was about 11, when my parents got divorced. And what happened was, from that time, my dad moved out, and I felt hurt. I felt a lot of bitterness and a lot of anger. It would be to the point where we wouldn't talk for multiple weeks, and I would get angry, just at the mention of his name. I was furious and I was hurt, and it was all because he wasn't being the father figure that I felt that he should be. As an 11-year-old girl, I knew a whole bunch about being a father figure. And so I was able to, judge him and have this really hard place in my heart where I felt a lot of fury towards, honestly, the idea of even having a relationship. And it took so many years, 6, to figure out what exactly I needed to do to start the process of forgiving him, and moving through this idea of vengeance. We had a relationship that was built on a foundation of misunderstanding, and miscommunication, and all of these sorts of things, when in actuality, we're just two people who communicate in very different ways. Perhaps we couldn't relate on the level of having a conversation about our feelings, but in moving through the process of forgiveness and putting a roof on this sort of house, I was able to recognize in a greater light the fact that we have the commonalities of thirsting for knowledge. We love to talk about art together, and we'll talk about an opera maybe that we want to go see, or a new jazz album that we heard on the radio, or geopolitics, or something like that. So we have these sorts of discussions, and we'll realize that we have more in common than we ever could have realized. Just because we can't connect on sort of direct emotional level doesn't mean that we can't connect at all. And it was a very hard choice to let him back into my life. It was something that has taken a long time, and I'm not sure it's still something that's finished. I'm not sure if I'm there, if I'm all the way forgiven. But because I was able to start this process, I'm trying. We're all trying. And can I tell a little story within this story? Yeah, thank you. So last Tuesday, I was actually sitting at Starbucks, and I get this text from my dad, and it says free to talk, and I was scared. I was terrified. I'm thinking that I was in trouble or something, or somebody in my family had died, or something awful had happened. I was fearing the worst. But then I get this phone call from him, and we end up having about what's going on in our lives. You know, he asks me, hey, how's work going? And then I ask him the same, you know, and we're talking about things like speech team or comedy sports or who's going to run for president in 2016, you know, these sorts of really down-to-earth things. And we finished this conversation, you know, and I put the phone down and I realized that we're in a place of forgiveness that I never could have imagined. You know, this is a healthy place in our relationship that I really didn't foresee 4 or 5 years ago when we weren't speaking and when I was angry and when I was painful. So, Haley, as you said, not every story does really have a happy ending, but all of them have a process. And when we allow forgiveness in, that process becomes really joyful almost. It can become something of beauty and light, and I think that's really important. And much like Ms. Rowan said in her last speech, it's not some cookie-cutter formula, and we're not here to tell you exactly how to forgive. And, like, we're not experts or anything. We just believe that it's important, and we're trying to concrete it a little bit, talk about it in new ways. Yeah. And it's something that is really difficult, you know, and it can be really painful for a lot of people in a lot of ways. It's really necessary. And Hannah, the huge question is whether or not you're going to be willing to take this mistake that happened in 2nd grade, you know, if you're just going to be willing to pitch out your right strategy. P-I-T-C-H, pitch. Fine. I guess I can try. You know, it's a process. You know, you taught me this going through the foundation of the house, foundation, frame, roof, door, windows. I can try and forgive. I guess that's all we can really do. We can try.